Hey everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of a podcast called the Motorcycle Podcast. And on this episode, we will talk about some important steps that all of you need to take if you're looking to buy a used or a second-hand two-wheeler for yourself. So let's start this short and sweet episode after this intro. Now, as a lot of us look to buy used two-wheelers, we tend to look for a good deal. Of course, when we find a good deal on a vehicle, we see that deal and judge it by how lucrative the pricing is. Once we do that, we then jump on to grab the first opportunity to take that deal and purchase the two-wheeler without even looking at what the two-wheeler actually is. We tend to become enthusiastic or over-enthusiastic as if this is the best deal we could get and it will go away if we don't act on time. Now, in this hurry of buying our dream two-wheeler or a vehicle, we tend to forget one fact, that it is a vehicle used by someone else before us, and that previous ownership can amount to a number of things that can go wrong with the vehicle or a two-wheeler. There can be some horrific issues hidden in the outer facade of a nice looking vehicle which are not seen by the naked eye. Due to this, many people get trapped or scammed or end up buying vehicles which are not managed well and tend to become problematic after some time. So, in this episode, we need to tell you a few things that you need to look at before you buy a used vehicle. Now, in our opinion, we need to sit back, relax, and follow a series of checks before we go ahead in any sort of deal for a used vehicle to guarantee a safe and a good quality vehicle is being handed to us. Now, for this to happen, we need to discuss those checks to get a well-maintained vehicle for the money we have worked hard for. So let's start a simple process or series of checks which you need to perform before you buy a used two-wheeler or a vehicle. So the first check that you need to do is check all the papers through the RTO, or what we call the Registered Transport Office. Now, first and foremost, what you need to do is check all the previous papers of the vehicle from the Regional Transport Office in your area. When we buy a used vehicle, we need to make sure that the two-wheeler that is sold to us has a legal ownership before us. This step is important to figure out if the vehicle is genuine or not. The papers need to be checked to see if they are fake or not, or if the vehicle is stolen or not. This is a very, very important step before you purchase a vehicle, as a lot of vehicles purchased in India are not genuine. They're stolen. The papers drawn out are fake. So you need to make sure that whatever you buy is genuine with all its paperwork in place. So you need to get it checked through the Regional Transport Office or the Transport Department website, which is available for all to use. So please get all the papers checked out and make sure that the vehicle you're buying or the two-wheeler you're buying is genuine and has all its papers intact. Now, after you check all the papers, you need to check the insurance coverage for accidental damage. Now, next thing you need to check is the validity of insurance papers and any sort of accidental damage amount claimed from the policy in the recent past. Now, this step will validate two things. First, it will make sure if the current insurance policy is not lapsed, it is in continuation, and secondly, it can detect a major accidental damage in recent years, can create an issue for the new owner during latter stages of ownership. Now, usually what happens is, if you see any sort of accidental damage claimed in the recent past through the insurance policy, that means that the vehicle or the two-wheeler has been damaged in some sort of a way, so that as the owner had claimed, this amount in the policy to get the damage fixed. Now, usually what happens is when the damage is big and the cost is really high, owners tend to use the insurance of the vehicle to cover that damage. If you find out the damage is high and an amount of higher proportion has been claimed from the policy, we request you and we urge you to avoid buying that vehicle and to look for another vehicle with no or minimal damage. There could be some sort of damage to the engine or the body which can lead to problems for you in the future stages of the ownership. So we request you, please check if there's any sort of amount claimed, as it can show you any sort of major damage to the vehicle. After you check all the coverage, you need to check any sort of bends on the frame. Now, it is important that you look at or check any sort of damage in the frame of the two-wheeler. Frame is a key element of any two-wheeler, and any sort of damage or bend in the frame could lead to the disbalance of the two-wheeler, resulting in an accident. Also, fixing it later on would be an additional expenditure of high magnitude for you as a new owner. We request you, please, before you buy any sort of vehicle, you need to get the frame checked to see if there is a major bend in the frame or not. We have seen a lot of people, a lot of owners ignore this issue and later on face difficulties to manage the two-wheeler. Please make sure that you do not fall in that category and get it checked through a able mechanic or a service center. Make sure there is no bend or damage to the brain before you go and make any sort of deal for the vehicle. After you check the frame, you need to check any sort of breaks or leaks in the vehicle. If you find any sort of breaks or leaks in the vehicle, then it means there is a major damage to the two-wheeler which will not bode well for you as a new owner. Any sort of leakage or breakage in a component or a part can lead to future issues and replacement of the part, which can be a huge expenditure for you as the new owner of the vehicle in the latter stages of the ownership. So you need to get the vehicle checked for any sort of breakage or leakage from the parts of the bike, and make sure that the bike you're getting is breakage or leakage free for better management of the vehicle. Now, after you check the brakes and the leaks, you need to check the wear and tear of the engine. Now, used vehicle can be handled badly by the previous owner. This will show in the engine's wear and tear. You can check the wear in the engine by the ride quality of the vehicle, clunking sound coming out of the engine, number of kilometers done on a two-wheeler, external decay or rust, overheating, quick overheating of the engine, and number of other factors which may indicate that the engine is either old or finished or coming of age. Now, if you see these sorts of issues in the engine, we request you to please stay away from the two-wheeler, as this shows that the two-wheeler would not be able to withstand for much longer. You need to make sure that the vehicle you get has a good enough engine so that it can run for many years to come. So please make sure that you get the quality of the engine checked and make sure that the engine has been kept in good shape before you do any sort of deal for a used two-wheeler. Now you need to make sure you follow and check up on all of these points mentioned above. Now with these points, we give you another bonus point which is specifically for the people of Delhi NCR area. Now for Delhi NCR owners or prospective used vehicle buyers, used two-wheeler buyers, you need to check the manufacturing date on a two-wheeler. Now due to the environmental issues and policy changes, people living in Delhi NCR, about 60 kilometers from the national capital, need to check if the vehicle is coming towards the 15-year limit that has been implemented by the government. Now, after 15 years, the RC or the registration certificate of the two-wheeler would be cancelled and not renewed for Delhi NCR. Now, if you're looking for a two-wheeler, used two-wheeler in Delhi NCR, make sure to check the date of manufacturer. If the date is close to 15 years of ownership, please stay away from the two-wheeler, as you will not be able to ride the two-wheeler for long in the range of 60 kilometers from the national capital area because of the restrictions. And after the 15-year period is over, your RC or the registration certificate will be scrapped, and you will have no choice to either scrap your two-wheeler or sell it to someone outside the 60 kilometer area, outside the prescribed kilometer limit of the national capital. So make sure that you get your date of manufacturing check and make sure that you get everything checked before you go out and buy a used two-wheeler. Now, these were the checkpoints all of us need to remember before we go out and go in for a used two-wheeler. Make sure you check all the points before you make any sort of deal for a used two-wheeler. You want you to be smart and get the best possible deal on the used two-wheeler. So follow these steps. So you need to follow these steps. So follow these steps, stay safe, and enjoy the ride of your used two-wheeler. Now with this, we end a simple and short podcast episode. How did you like the episode? Tell us in the comments below. Like, share and subscribe to our podcast, and make sure that you follow us on social media. We will leave all the links below. Now before we end our podcast, we always say, ride safe, always wear your protective gear, and ride everywhere. So make sure you do that, follow these steps, stay safe, and enjoy the ride. So till our next episode, we take your leave and say bye-bye.